foot, I slip and I fall and I land on my head. And everybody heard it. They thought it was two of the curling rocks hitting each other, but it was actually my head hitting the ice, and my body bounced out and then bounced back in. And I start getting itchier and itchier. Food reactions keep getting worse and worse and worse, and I'm having incredible fatigue, but I just play it off as like, well, it's all my pregnancies, oh, it's all these kids, oh, that I can barely walk up the stairs, that my blood pressure is dropping every time I stand up. Hands and my legs started going numb. I started having panic, intrusive thoughts, continual fear my kids are going to die. That's when it got unmanageable. Hi, my name is Adrian, and if you're new here, I was a former contestant on season 3 of The Biggest Loser. Today I am carnivore, and I also am battling Chronic Inflammatory Response Syndrome, and I'm here to just share my experience with you. Today I want to just give you a background on how did I get Chronic Inflammatory Response Syndrome? How did that happen, and where am I today? So Chronic Inflammatory Response Syndrome is when your body goes into inflammation and it doesn't know how to turn it off. And in turn, that inflammation starts making your body act wonky. It starts attacking itself. So there can be a range of autoimmune conditions from this. And sometimes it can be diagnosed as MS. Sometimes it can be diagnosed as fibromyalgia. Along with this often comes hormone issues and even thyroid and adrenal issues, all of which I've had the thyroid and the adrenals and the hormone issues. So I've kind of known something was off for a long time. And one thing that just goes way back in time is when I was born, even as a little kid, I've always been overweight. I also struggled with chronic UTIs since I was a child and chronic ear infections. So this is all going on. It all seems fluky, and asthma. But I grew up in a very old home with a wet crawl space underneath it. So I go through this my whole life, and I'm struggling with weight, and I do all kinds of things to do my weight, including being on the TV show The Biggest Loser. I have gastric bypass, all these things, all these diets, I try everything, and I just struggle with my weight. And part of that is definitely hormonally. Another thing that was kind of an indicator that something seemed off was that it took a year to get pregnant with my first kid and my third kid. And in between there was a child that was lost at 20 weeks. So, and I was just told it was just a fluke. Another thing that was really odd was with all of my kids, I tried so hard to nurse them, but I never had any milk. I had all the tools, all the time, all the desire, and the milk just never came. So on and on, all these symptoms start happening. I also have like itchy shoulders, itchy skin. I start getting these white spots all over my body. You can see the white spots, and I'm told that that's just a lack of pigment, but it's weird because they just keep popping up. I keep having itchy areas of my body, and I keep being told it's a yeast infection or an infection of some kind. We keep trying to treat it, yet the itch never goes away. So all these things are happening, and one thing would be I went and had gastric bypass. And after that, I just was never the same. I started having hypoglycemia. I started having food reactions constantly, and I just blamed it on the surgery. And I'm sure it was partly the surgery, but surgeries can also trigger inflammation. The next thing that happened was I got a divorce, and the divorce has gone on for 9 years. So this is like a tragic, traumatic experience that just goes on and on and on. And that type of situation can also trigger inflammation, as well as nervous system issues and autoimmune issues. So then the next thing that happens is I'm curling with my husband, and I put too much pressure on the slip foot. I slip and I fall and I land on my head. And everybody heard it. They thought it was two of the curling rocks hitting each other, but it was actually my head hitting the ice, and my body bounced out and then bounced back in. So I have this head injury, and ever since then, things haven't been the same. Like, I'm not a person that can look up very well. I get vertigo, even though I've done PT, even though I've had my crystals realigned. So it's just been weird ever since the head injury, and that was about 8 years ago. So things go on and on and on, and I start getting itchier and itchier, and the food reactions keep getting worse and worse and worse, and I'm having incredible fatigue, but I just play it off as like, well, it's all my pregnancies, oh, it's all these kids, oh, it's I was a working mom for a long time. It's just, it's just life that I'm so tired that I can barely walk up the stairs, that my blood pressure is dropping every time I stand up, that my hand, then I get the bad virus. And that was my tipping point. I was never the same after that. Then I started getting symptoms like terror and just an inability to sleep. I would get up in the middle of the night and I would stumble down the hall to go to the bathroom. My hands and my legs started going numb. I started having panic, intrusive thoughts, continual fear my kids are going to die. That's when it got unmanageable. When I would try to drive for more than 20 minutes, I'd get really, really sleepy. And I thought, well, this must be, I don't know. And I tried at different times of day. I haven't been able to have any caffeine for years. I haven't been able to tolerate that since the virus. Every time I ate, I would like keel over. I'd be so tired and my stomach would hurt so bad that I vowed to never eat again. I mean, there were so many times that I vowed, I'm just done eating. Eating isn't for me because I get sick every time. And when I'd go to the doctor, they would just run basic things like the TSH and maybe a basic blood panel, and then they would tell me that I was fine and send me home. And I'm like, I know I'm not fine. Well, after my fourth kid, I wanted milk so bad for this baby. So I birthed him at home in a bathtub. We stayed skin to skin for weeks, like 6 weeks. We did not wear clothes. We did not leave our home. We had the lactation people come to us. We had the doctor come to us. We had cranial sacral therapy come to us. I had all the tinctures from Earthly. I had all the food in the freezer pre-made, and it was perfect with veggies and meat and juices, and it didn't have any seed oils or sugar. I had this perfect diet picked out. I had everything ready to go. And we get our 6-week appointment, and this baby hasn't gained weight. My heart was so broken. I had done everything this time to have this milk, and that is what pushed me to go to a different type of doctor and have them run some tests on like, why don't I have milk? So I did the spit test, the hormone spit test, and I did some blood tests. I think I did a urine too, and she found that I have Hashimoto's, and I had my adrenal. It was like 1 point away from being the worst adrenal level that there was. I don't remember exactly what it said. So my adrenals were dead, my thyroid is struggling, and then there were other indicators of chronic fatigue and all this. And I was like, hey, so what's the answer? And at that point I was like, I'm so sick of prescriptions. Is there another way? So she gave me supplements to try and said, yeah, there's not really a cure. I don't really know, but we can try these supplements and give it some time and see if you can heal. So we give it some time and see if I can heal, and I don't. And it gets to the point that I am just debilitated. I can't go to anybody's home. I can't hardly drive. I can't hardly have enough energy to drive my kids anywhere. I'm barely being able to be a mom. And on top of this, my husband's on the road sometimes. So I have to function and I can't function. And I'm telling people that I'm struggling, but they are looking at me and telling me I look just fine. I seem fine. It must be in my head. Maybe I need psych medicine. Constantly I got that comments. Maybe you need to get on some psych medicines. And I was like, no, that is not what this is. Also, I've had postpartum in previous pregnancies. This was not postpartum. Again, I had dropped, even before I got pregnant, I had dropped all seed oils, all sugars, all grains, all chemicals. I was not doing any artificial sweeteners, any chemicals, nothing. I had a very, what I thought was just a super clean diet. And one day my dad said, you should do carnivore. So I dropped the vegetables too. And I saw a lot of benefits there. And I started getting better. And I started to feel amazing. And then it took a turn and I started regressing again. And the same food reactions, the same inability to sleep, the same stumbling down the hall, the same terror, the same blah, blah. But at this point now I've cleaned everything out to see that I'm also getting a lot of symptoms every time I eat. And that just indicated a huge leaky gut, blah, blah, blah. But that's when I stumbled upon Judy Cho and CIRS. And the minute that I watched her video, I already knew I had this because every single symptom that I had, she was explaining in this video. I didn't need any testing to tell me, but I went and did the VCS test anyway. That wasn't good enough for my husband. He was like, that just seems crazy that these blurry lines are a test and that's supposed to tell us that you have this crazy disease or this crazy condition. And so I fought for some blood testing, but he was really like having a hard time with this. And in his defense, you know, I'm basically saying, hey, I'm allergic to our house. We have to move. I'm pretty allergic to my car because we've been in my car. I'm allergic to everything we own and we have to pay all our doctors out of pocket. And so he had a really hard time swallowing this. So it was a slow progression to get the diagnosis and to get things that I needed. And I'm a really passive person. I don't like to stand up for myself. So to have to stand up to my husband, who is a lion, and say, listen, I have to move out of this house. I have to get medicine and I have to see these special doctors. It was so hard. And it was so hard on our marriage too. And this toughness went on for like 6 months of just tough fighting for myself. But I did get out. We moved into some Airbnbs. We did some remediation. I went back in. I got more sick. I had told them this remediation isn't appropriate for a person in my condition. Nobody listened to me. Went back in, got more sick than ever, moved back out, do more remediation. But at that point, I'm like, I don't want to test moving back in. I'd prefer that we just got the house and we fix it up and we sell it. And have it professionally cleaned, and so that it is just great for every other person in the world except for me. So we've been going through that, and we moved into our camper while we looked for a place to live. So a new place to live is going to have to be newer, because it can't have had these water events, because people don't handle them properly. They pour bleach on it and then they put paint on top of it. That does not get rid of mold, guys. That makes it worse. It does not get rid of the problem. And the mold isn't necessarily even the problem. It's the whole family of fungi and bacteria that grows along with it, that eats it, that loves it, that grows and spawns, and la 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 la. So we need a newer place that maybe hasn't had water events, but it also has to be affordable, because we still own another house and have to renovate it, and we have to pay my medical bills out of pocket. And so we lived in our camper for June, July, August, September, October, 5 months. And then we found a townhome had just opened up, and we were kind of shocked by the price, because we had looked at the apartments, the newer apartments, which are all booked. So we can't get into the newer apartments, but the newer apartments were like $3,000 a month for an apartment. So, and this place was much cheaper than that. So we get in and we find out that they just have a situation where it's a temporary rental, but that works for us because we don't want to live here forever anyway. So we move in, and at first I'm very sick, actually. When I first moved in here, I don't know, we were just too close in the camper, and there's a thing called actinos and something or other, and so I was starting to deteriorate again in the camper. And I suspect maybe there was another water event in there, or maybe it's just the actinos. It's probably the actinos, but so we move into this house and I'm feeling sick, but I start getting better, and I'm doing so much better now. And so we're still here. I never want to leave. I just want to live someplace where I can be well. I started working with Dr. Grunning. So now I'm working with a CIRS doctor. This was just I tried to work with Judy Cho's team as well. They're amazing, but they specifically sent me to Grunning because of the bad virus piece, because I have long haulers. So I'm working with Grunning now, and I'm so excited. He already ran some tests, and I'm looking forward to seeing what his plan is. What does he think could help me? I'm seeing too, some of my symptoms are very perimenopausal. So there's some estrogen dominance going on. I've seen some of my tests come back too, that I think my brain is swollen, but my parahippocampus is atrophied. And I guess there's 3 areas of atrophy in my brain. I had a neuroquant done. It's an MRI with a neuroquant analysis. So that was very interesting. And I'm happy to say it did not indicate that I have Lyme's, which is great, because every time I tell my story, people say, wow, that sounds like Lyme's. And I'm so grateful that my brain did not indicate Lyme's as a primary infection in me, because Lyme's is so hard to get rid of. So that's a positive. But my thyroid again came back as Hashimoto's, and my antibodies. Now, good news, some of the supplements that my doctor had put me on 2 years ago, my antibodies had gone from like 240 to 140 or something in that range. They came down significantly. So my antibodies, they came down, but my thyroid has continued to go down. So we need to do something there. So I'm looking forward to, and I will keep you guys updated on my next appointment. It's on April 29th, and I will let you know what he says and where we go from here. But the main point is, if you aren't feeling well, you might need to move. And as you look into this, it doesn't have to be an old house. It can be a brand new house with a unit, an AC unit that was used for 1 season and somehow got moldy and is blowing moldy bacteria and fungi air into your house. So that's my story. I have chronic inflammatory response syndrome. I'm still working on it. My official diagnosis, I think, was in May. So we're going on a year of knowing that I had it. And we're just still working on it. It just takes time. It's a very so many pieces have to come in line, and it's kind of, you got to save money and it's spendy. So, but just don't give up, because if you can get out of your home, which is the hardest part, you can get better. Another thing I had was the numbing in my hands and feet. That's 95% gone. If I go eat some dairy, it comes back. Dang it. Another problem with the chronic inflammatory response syndrome is that your gut lining starts opening up with all the inflammation. That's where the food stuff is coming in. So we got to heal the gut. We got to heal the infection in the nose. There's a multi-antibiotic resistant staph infection in my nose. And this is very common in people with chronic inflammation like this. So we have all these infections we got to work on. We got to work on the thyroid, but I'm excited to be on the right path. And so is Vollmer, because he's getting his mom back. I have a whole lot more energy today. It's not 100%, and there's definitely days that are not good, but I have a lot more energy, and I have a lot, like there's some brain foggy days, but there are some non-brain foggy days where I feel amazing. So we're on the right path, and I cannot wait to get to the VIP stage. It's funny that it's called that, but that's when you get this spray that boosts your brain back up, that actually helps the atrophy of your brain. So I'm excited to get back to that, and I'll keep you guys posted on how it goes. I appreciate you watching this video. If you like this, please like and subscribe, and come on back for some more information. Some future videos I have coming up will be the story of my time on The Biggest Loser. I'm also going to be interviewing people from The Biggest Loser. Where are they today? How are they today? What are they finding successful or not successful today? And how are their lives? Because we all kind of want to know. They were rock stars. So many of the contestants were absolute rock stars and inspired us all, and we want to know how they're doing today. So thanks for checking in. We'll see you soon.